All right, according to the Google machine, I'm live. Google machine? Well, I guess YouTube is a Google machine. Happy Monday. As for the title of this, I signed up to run, I guess I volunteered to run a game tonight at the Union Square location of Hexed Company, a friendly local gaming store. I wanted to do this to really kind of jumpstart getting this kind of rules that I've been working off and on to get done and kind of get her done, and also potentially hopefully get some gaming in there to kind of test it out a little bit, give me a chance to work on some adventures that I'm going to be running, maybe a few things. So this is just the first time running it, and the way the system works, I have no idea if anybody will actually show up to play. The way it works is you sign up as a GM to run a game, which I did on Saturday. I think I filled out their form, which is, if you're on their Discord, they put the form, you go fill out the form, and then I guess it then alerts the Discord that here's a game. And they did a very poor job. I just basically said like an OSR/NSR playtest. Hey, Ian. So it's not exactly grabbing people's attention. But then ultimately, people who are going to play the game don't sign up through the Discord or through some similar form. As far as I understand it, they simply they come into the shop knowing that there's a open, I guess it's like their open gaming night or whatever, their gaming night, and then they could potentially pick your game. So when I roll over there tonight, I get over there, I may or may not have anybody to actually play with. So I'm just going to have to go and kind of see. And I have no idea. I've never done this before. I've never gone there as a player to play. I've never run a game there. I've only run a few con games. This is not, hey, Krakos, this is not my norm. So I have no idea what to expect in terms of, am I going to get anybody to run the game for? Are people just going to bypass it? Am I going to get some people who are interested and then decide not to? Am I just going to get kind of overflow? Like, oh, there's a few games that are people really want to play, but they can't get in that, so maybe they'll begrudgingly play this. I have no idea. But what I figured I did want to do was at least attempt to have some kind of play test document, mostly for players, or really it's all for players, because since I'm the one running this, I kind of know what's going on already. So I've been kind of feverishly putting something together. I was hoping to have it done earlier today so I could maybe send it off to get printed as a booklet, but that obviously didn't happen. I'm hoping maybe just to have a PDF, and then depending on what time I get out of here and how much time I have beforehand, can I find a print shop and maybe get it printed? I don't know, but at least I'll have something. I'll have a PDF either you send somebody, or maybe what I'll try to do is I'll have it on PDF and I'll put it on my iPad, and I'll have my iPad with me, and that way I can go do that. I mean, at this point, if I'm explaining something at the table, I would probably just walk them through it. I mean, the idea of having a couple of printouts is nice because you could have a couple for the table, and people need to look at it. There isn't really part of the thing with the system is it's really, in my mind anyway, at least it's really simple. And with this version of it, I'm kind of more or less trying to make some of this basically BX compatible. I can kind of run stuff that's more or less BX, and it's not going to work exactly the same, but kind of be able to run with it. So I'm trying to kind of just get some stuff written down. You can see, yes, you can see. I ended up, these are, I guess, what's this layout? It's, they're letter pages, but I forget the name of it. Is it digest, where they're letter pages, but I'm actually running 2 pages on one letter page. So this is one page, landscape, and this is cut into kind of half pages. So I've got, let's see, I do have some empty pages, but I've got about 15, 16 pages. So what I'm working right here right now is this concept of strain. And if you've seen some of my other streams, I've talked about this concept before. Basically, in the game, I'm doing away, or I'm condensing everything into one negative, I guess, currency, if you will. So instead of having hit points, and then I'm not like, so for example, like say, depending on what kind of game, what kind of house you're running, right? You might have hit points in BX, right? You have hit points, and so you're tracking your hit points. I don't have hit points in the game, but I also don't. I also like using things like exhaustion, but I'm not using exhaustion. Or if you want to have sanity, like I'm not using that. I just have one currency that will cover anything I want to have. Anytime you're suffering, wherever that suffering is coming from, regardless of where the suffering is coming from, you start to pick up strain. And when you pick up strain, it is both an additive kind of thing because you are gaining strain as opposed to losing hit points. But what it really is it's a way. But what happens is you have to account for strain. So this is a dice pool system. The more levels you have, the more dice you have. So a first level character has 1 die, and you can gain more die by doing stuff, not by doing stuff, by using tools or teamwork, like or using. Hey Brian, I'm doing fine. Hope you're doing well. Using tools. I have to find a way to figure out with tools because in some cases, I'm not going to get into the edge cases, but like with lock picking, you don't get a +1 for using lock picks because lock picks is kind of central to lock picking. Just like when you're fighting, you're kind of disadvantaged by not using weapons. You don't get an extra for using weapons, kind of that thing. But most part, if you're trying to open it, you're trying to break down a door. If you have a crowbar, that's kind of an additive tool. So great, you can get dice like that. If you have strain, you have to account for strain before you can add a dice into your dice pool. These are your kind of personal dice. So if I have 1 die and I have 1 strain, if I'm trying to do anything, suddenly my 1 die, I can't use that die to do anything. I got to put on the strain. So then how do I do something? Well, I got to figure out other things. So if I need to break down the door and I have a strain, and assuming I don't have any, because I have attributes here, so you can gain dice. Maybe you have a +1 for strength, which would give you die. But it's assuming you don't. Well, suddenly my 1 die that I have, strain eats up that die. So now to do stuff, I need to figure out. Now I really need tools. Otherwise, I just can't do anything. And then as strain builds up, if you can no longer account for it, then it will either go after your mind or your body. And I assume I was going to put in some language here about which one you go first. I would assume really player's choice, or if context. Context matters too. So if there's a contextual reason why it makes sense to be physical or mental, you go for one of the two, right? But in any case, you get those two. Once your mind is gone, you can't do any tasks that are mental tasks, like knowledge or things like that. Is beyond. You can't. If it's something you just know, you can do it. But if it's something that would need to roll to do, you can't do it. And if someone were then, if you're in that kind of down, if your mind is strained and someone decides to charm you, let's say, you can't resist it. You have nothing left. You're done. If your body is strained, then same thing, but it's for physical tasks. You can't do any physical tasks that require rolling dice. And if somebody's if you have to try to resist something physically, some nature, you can't. You're toast. If your mind and your body are both strained, and you continue to take on strain, which is what I'm writing up right here, that goes to your soul, which will take 1. Once your soul is strained, then you're dying, essentially. And if you take on more strain, that just reduces the amount of time you have for somebody to save you from that. So I think what I was going to go was kind of hours to hours to turns to rounds to dead, which is pretty much what I was going to write up right here. So I will just write up right here. So if the mind and the body are strained, if I guess I'll say if a character's characters, and I'll need to make up some pre-gens also, are both strained and they suffer strain. I hate that. Not hate it, but I just take off that. There we go. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Means the soul. Character with a strained soul is dying. This strains the soul. Soup to strain the soul. I really have I don't know. I was going to use this image that I had used before in a stream, actually. This page count for this test doc, Brian Smith asks. It's well, it's I have 16 actual pages in here, but let's say call it 12 or 13 and change, since I've got some. I'm not trying to be super, I'm if we kind of run through it, I'm giving things a lot of room to breathe. I've no art in here, so it's all just this, except for this, which I may or may not keep in here. And then I've got I put it a little bit for magic, so I put in one thing for just the first level, essentially, of some cleric spells, and one level of magic usage spells, because I'm going to be running first level characters. So for this version 1, I'm not worried about having like, oh, I got to have 8 levels of spells written out. It's like, no, I'm not worrying about that. And there's a blank page, but I do have some more stuff to do. I probably won't do equipment in here. I'm not going to worry about equipment. I'll just use from the book. Everything basically does the kind of in combat and whatnot. Armor is very simple. It just gives you resistance for 1, 2, or 3 hits. But nobody can. I might need to get into that. Nobody will have really heavy armor here anyway. And then weapons and stuff do basically one thing or as much damage, as much successes as you do. That's how much strain it causes. So if you can roll 4 dice and get 4 successes, which is usually 6s, unless you have some modifiers, then you do 4 damage. I do like the idea, kind of like in Wolves and some other games I've had, where different weapons have some different kind of secondary effects, but I haven't figured out how to make that work or how I want to make it work here. So I'm probably not going to worry about it. I definitely, if I was going to have this printed, or if I intend to print it, I need to have what has to be what is it to be a multiple of 4, so I can do 12 pages, I can do 16 pages, or I just have to do 24 pages, no, 20 pages, but we'll see. I'm not going to worry about that quite yet. All right, so if both the characters mind and body, or if both the characters mind, I don't need both twice. If both the characters mind and body are strained and they suffer additional strain, it strains their soul. Yeah, I need to get it. Let's see. Let's see. I want to get that. I don't need that. It imperils. That's a good word. It imperils their soul. A character with an imperiled soul is dying. Did I not spell imperiled correctly? Oh, it's with an I. Sorry about that. Okay. Character, yeah, so a dying character. All right, so if for every strain that imperils the soul, let's see, a character has 1 hour of life left before they die. This time is reduced by every strain after the first. That, okay. Let's see, how do I make this make sense? Okay, as a character has 1 hour of life, a character, I don't know, that's a weird way of saying it. A character with an imperiled soul is dying, will die, hold on, yep, this is better. Will die, in 1 hour if not aided. This time decreases for every strain after the first that reaches the soul, from hours to turns, from I guess from an hour to a turn to a round. If more strain remains, the character dies. Yeah, I should say as soon as hold on. If the character is reduced, hold on a minute. If the what's the word there? Yeah, they're dying. Okay, they're dying. Was there another word? All right. If the characters, what's the thing out there? The time left. This time decreases the character's dying time. That sounds awful. If this time is reduced to rounds, to a round, and there is still strain unaccounted for. Let's see. This time decreases for every strain after the first that reaches the soul, from an hour to a turn to a round. If more strain, if there is still strain unaccounted for, the character dies. All right, I'm just going to do that. Character dies. All right, I don't know if that makes the most sense. I mean, I know what I'm trying to say. Obviously, the trick is to let other people in on what I'm trying to say. Excuse me, but I think this will get me close enough. Well, the character's mind and body are strained, and they suffer additional strain. It imperils their soul. A character with an imperiled soul will die in 1 hour if not aided. This time decreases for every strain after the first that reaches the soul, from an hour to a turn to a round. If there is still strain unaccounted for, the character dies. I think that makes. I mean, I will have to. I'm sure I will have to rewrite that at some point because it's not Hemingway. It is not. But it will work. Now, do I need this guy? I don't know if I do or not. I'll leave him here for right now. Let's see. So I need to do something on armor, right? I had something over here. Oh yeah, that was my thing. Armor. Armor. Okay. Now I'll put another section. Okay. What am I? What level is this? This is header 1, so this will be header 2. Armor and Amore, maybe. Resistance and armor. I had another word I really liked because there are really two types of resistances I'm going for. And I suppose in this case, I don't really need to. I don't like the word absorption. It's kind of absorption. I always hate that when I have a great word and I don't call it. And then, let's see, are there any synonyms? Let me see. Synonyms for absorption. Is it absorption? I think it is, right, with a P. Oh, let's see what kind of words we get, if there's anything good. Let me do it in a couple. All right, let's see. Hold on a minute. What are we getting here? Definitely not amore. Word hippo. All right. Let's see. What does Merriam-Webster have to say? Immersion, engrossment. As in immersion, is that really as an immersion? Like a sponge? Does a sponge immerse? Focusing in the mind on something? No. I mean like a sponge, not like immerse. Well, Merriam-Webster, that was a boo hiss. What does Cambridge Dictionary I love, but I think it's pay. I think it's a pay for dictionary, which means I don't have a membership, which means what's it going to give me? Assimilation, consumption, incorporation, osmosis. No. Those are more along the lines of what I was looking for, but those are not what I'm looking for. What about, maybe it holds because we're holding off damage. Would that work? Hold to grip, to contain. No, not to contain. What about to stop? To retain? No. To accommodate? No. I guess I could say prevent. What's prevent? Avert, forestall. Maybe I need prevention. I need nouns. I don't need avoidance, deterrence. Deterrence is a cruddy. I mean, it's not a bad word. Interdiction. I feel like that would be the Colville world. Interdiction. That's not it either. I don't know. You're not being particularly helpful. My brain is not. Not working. So you got something like blocking, stopping, hindering, a hinder, an obstruction. I need something defensive. What are some? I need defensive words. All right, I'm just gonna have to go with. What did I not want to use? Prevention, deterrent, determined, foiling. No, not avoidance. I really want. What would be? I mean, absorb is kind of it, right? That's ablation, right? Like ablative armor, but I'm not trying to do. That's not. No, the source word for ablative. No. Nope, no, no. Yeah, I don't know. All right, I can't get stuck here. I cannot get stuck here. Okay. Yeah. So we're just gonna go. Well, the thing is, there's no. So I was thinking like, because basically armor in this system is, it's not temporary, but it degrades in the course of a combat. This is not a game where you're going to be having to grab armor kits. I'm not interested in the ting 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 doing that every 5 minutes. But what it is rather than give you, so in D&D, right, you have armor class of 4. You have armor class you're wearing, well, let's do it this way. In D&D, you're wearing chainmail, which I think gives you what, AC 4. Okay, great. And you have AC 4 till the cows come home. Okay, that's just what it is. In this game, when you get into a scuffle, your chainmail being medium armor would give you 2, which means you can absorb 2 hits. And after those 2 hits are gone, your armor is just not effective anymore. And I'm looking at armor as more of a, like it's a delay. Like the more armor you have, the more you can delay taking on strain, as opposed to an absolute. Because the way I look at it, if you're in combat, however long it takes to fight, let's say, and you're wearing chainmail, people are banging away at you, you're not really immune to them banging away on you. It's dulling, right? Your armor is dulling the effect of their weapon. I mean, there is a certain point, say you get into plate, kind of plate armor, and a lot of a weapon, a lot of it just goes down to almost zero. I've been reading. I like the what is it? The Acoop.blog, which is the a collection of unmitigated pedantry, which often goes into basically warfare and those kind of studies, military history and stuff. And they talk about how at a certain point you get into kind of serious plate armor, and things like arrows become almost, they lose a lot of their effectiveness because they can't penetrate. They can't get through. But, given we're playing a game and whatnot, I'm not trying to do that. But what the idea here is that if you're in plate armor and people are still banging into you, even with clubs, it gives you a buffer of time through which you can take some of those club blows. But in classic D&D, where it seems like you can just stand there forever, just as people are just banging away at you, and you can just kind of turn, no, bang over here, ooh, bang over here, it's fine. And this game is not working like that. Like, you start getting hits, but it goes, I think I have 1, 2, and then 4. So, it kind of doubles each time. Ian asks, how often is armor refreshed? After combat. It's just during a particular combat. You get that breather and you're able to kind of get your act together. So I'm not asking you this game is not asking you to, again, carry around armor kits. I suppose there's an edge case of when does an encounter begin or end. I think, I would even say if you can go around, I might put in there, if you can go around where you're not in melee, not about not being hit, but you're not in melee, then you might be able to get it back. I'd be fine with that too, which actually adds a whole other thing. If you can get away and sort of hide and sort of take that, it's like a breather, I guess, a combat breather, get it back. But ultimately, if you're in the mix, your armor can take so many hits and then it's toast. And a shield, I think a shield adds one to that. Kind of like, I haven't totally figured out shields, but because I was thinking either you could use your shield. I kind of like, I'm pulling this in. I sort of like that idea I don't totally like it, but I like it some. That Pathfinder 2nd edition thing about kind of readying the shield to make it more of a choice. And so I might do that. I probably need to figure out, because I do have shields in people's kits. I guess before I just go ahead and, let me write this down. So, it's got that. Let me get this written. Oh yeah, it's not what I was trying to do. I just want to get rid of whatever's going on. There we go. Resistance. Okay, let's see. How can I do this? Resistance absorbs strain before it can impact a character. Strain absorbed. Let's see. Character. Strain absorbs resistance. Resistance absorbs strain. Let's just get that. Before it can impact a character. Strain dealt with in this way is resolved and does not count against that character. Against that character's resolved. I don't know, is resolved. Or maybe I should say eliminated. Croco says maybe use dice pools alarm. Well, you do, Croco. You do, because any strain, you might have missed it as I went through up here. Strain that is not accounted through by armor hits your dice pool. So you as a character, you as a player, you want to try as much as you can to deal with, obviously just not take strain, which is like not taking damage. But yes, if you have, say, if you're level 3, so you have a dice pool starting at 3, and you are in town and you're at a banquet and you're not wearing your armor, and somebody comes in and whacks you with a hammer for one strain, you take that strain. And then if you're trying to do something, you say, "Oh, well, I want to hit the guy back." You would normally say, "Well, I have 3 dice, so I'm going to roll 3 dice." But because you have one strain, you say, "Nope. One of your dice from dice pool has to account for the strain. You have to use your die to account for that strain." And so since you have 3 dice, you put one of those dice by your strain, it's accounted for, and then you can roll the rest of your dice. But of course, what happens is that if you keep taking strain, you're going to run out of your dice pool, and that's when you start to run into problems. The nice thing for me as a system is that it's very easy to do. The more levels you have, the more dice you have. So, you don't have to track. I'm not rolling for hit points. I usually do D6. I mean, on my home when I'm running a game, say BX, just regular, I'm doing D6 health and D6 weapons. So for me, it's just, I'm going back to a little bit of that OD&D thing of just one hit is one hit. And in this case, one hit gives you one strain, but it could be other things. Strain doesn't have to just be physical; it can be mental. So one of the things I like is I like accounting for things like exhaustion, or if you're having something like sanity or things like that. But what I don't want to do is I don't really like, and I just think in this day and age, just being sensitive to people, we have all kinds of different issues we're all dealing with, to have something like, oh, let's throw in some cartoony version of, or at least, some kind of stereotypical, oh, you've picked up a phobia. It's like, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to say, that's why I'm saying it's strain. And then you as a character, you as a player, can role play that strain however you want to. So if someone hits you in the head with a hammer and you take a strain and you want to role play that strain like you're seeing stars and you're a little bit goofy, maybe not, I'd advise against it. I don't know, depending on the table, but whatever, sure, go for it. If you want to role play that strain as having a migraine and some kind of headache, you almost can't see straight, great. If you don't really want to role play it at all and you're just going to do it, that's also great. That to me was part of the, like, why I really like this, is because it really is the freedom to you play it however you want to, but it has a real impact, and you deal with the impact and the mechanical part, and you want to role play it however you want. I don't care. Brian Smith says, as an insane person, I appreciate the design considerations. Yeah. I just see that stuff now, and it's fine. I mean, it's one of those things, right? It's like, I don't suffer from those things, so it's not like I'm not personally offended. It just seems to me, one, I just don't find it's like the good kind of role playing. It can be funny, goofy, you're like, oh, but it also is like, hey, I don't need to mandate it. Like I said, you play. If you're at a goofy table and you guys doing goofy things, then you guys can do it in any goofy, cartoony way you want to. If someone wants to play more serious, they can. I'm not telling them, and I don't need to tell them, because the impact is there mechanically, and then you can decide how to role play. So you can fit the style of the role playing to whatever style of game you're playing, and I don't need to mandate one thing or another. Okay, resistance absorbs strain before it can impact a character. Strain dealt with in this way is eliminated. Armor is a type of resistance that degrades how am I going to say this? Resistance absorbs strain before it can impact a character. Strain dealt with in this way is eliminated. Armor is a type of resistance that degrades through use. When okay. Armor is a type of resistance that degrades through use when armor is, and what's the activated, engaged? When armor is used, through use. Every armor has a resistance rating. Light 1, medium 2, heavy 4. right? I don't know if should I put this in a table? I don't really have the room for a table. Well, I got plenty of room, but okay, armor has armor is type of resistance that degrades through use. Every armor has a resistance rating. Whenever armor absorbs strain, it loses ratings, maybe not the right word. Has a resistance amount. I don't love the word amount here, but I'll try it. Whenever armor absorbs strain, it loses as much resistance as the strain it absorbed when armor runs. Maybe I'll say it has an amount of resistance. I like that. Of resistance. Okay. Whenever armor absorbs strain, it loses. Oh, okay. An armor is a type of resistance that degrades through use. Every armor has an amount of resistance. Light 1, medium 2, heavy 4. Or maybe I'll put. You know what, I'm not going to put this here. I'll make equipment. I know in my brain what this is, and I'll probably have to put an equipment list at some point. Though it won't make it for today for sure. But I can save the space by not doing it here. Whenever armor absorbs strain, it loses as much resistance as the strain it absorbed. When the armor runs out of resistance, it is it is not. I'll say useless. What's the word? It is shattered. No, I'm not doing shattered. I actually have the explode. No, I have a methodology for sacrifice, which I'll get into in a minute. But no, that's not explode. I thought it. All right, armor is a type of resistance that degrades through use. Every armor has an amount. Every armor has a. Yeah, I guess I'm going to go back to rating. I kind of like that better. Whenever armor absorbs strain, it loses as much resistance as the strain it absorbed. When the armor runs out of resistance, it is spent. What I just said that here is kind of like not inert. That is not the right word. Armor. Runs out of resistance. Oh yeah, well I guess it no longer can absorb strain until it is refreshed. Probably a better word than refreshed. But there, I'll go with refreshed until now. For now, I might need to move to the next page only because I don't want to. I'm trying. Another thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kind of keep all the ideas, singular things together. What's another word? What's some synonyms for refreshed? Refresh. It's refreshing. What are we going? Let's see. When is it gonna? Invigorated, strengthened, rejuvenated, cooled off, reanimated, braced. Ooh, braced is kind of cool. Man. Can I open braced in another? Can I see the dictionary? Are you gonna let me do this, or I just afraid I'm gonna get hit with the paywall. A brace. Yeah, brace. Yeah, connect. No, I'm not looking for that. Well, it doesn't work. Refreshed. But if brace is a synonym for refresh, how do you get that? All right, pearl of braces. Okay, a pair of suspenders called braces, calipers, physical supports and supporting brace, noun, verb. No, I mean I love the word, but no, it doesn't fit for me. Invigorated, freshened. Come on, renewed. Are we going into renew? No, that's not definitely what I wanted to do. I wanted to open. What did I want to see? I wanted to see invigorate. Okay, to make something feel fresher. Yeah, that works. To give new energy. Yeah, I guess invigorated. Vambrace. Is that an item or is that an action? No vambrace. I need something that's basically an action, but it's not really an action because it just need to be, I guess, rested. Maybe I got to use rested. That really is what it is. It's not about you doing anything. Again, I'm not trying to get into the armor kit business. No offense to few folks who love their armor repair kits. That's not what I'm looking for. You know what I'll do? Maybe I'll say you can get half of it back if you spend a turn. That's a good idea. Okay, do I want to keep you? I mean, I need 16 pages. I've got 16 pages. What other stuff do I need to do? I mean, there's ungodly amount of stuff I need to do. But yeah, I'm going to get rid of you right now. I'm going to move you over here. You I can get rid of. Okay, so resistance and armor. Resistance absorbs strain before it can be impacted. Okay. All right, what are you? No. What are you doing? No, I don't need that. You are heading to. All right, so let's add more. Got to scrub it clean. I mean, you really should. I mean, imagine the real world. Yeah, people would be doing that. A lot of it, but I just don't. I mean, either that's the thing where I just assume you're doing things like cleaning your armor, and that's that like armor and weapon maintenance are stuff that I'm happy to leave in that space between when we're doing all the things we're talking about in the game. So you're camping for the night, or you're back at the inn, or whatever. You spend some time to. I don't need to get into that. I mean, I can see for some folks it might be really interesting, but to me, it just ends up being something that is both kind of busy work that you're just going to be repeating over and over again. Every time we have a delve and come back, I got to tell you I'm cleaning my armor and wiping down my weapons and oiling. And then that's just kind of not fun to me anyway. And the other part is it seems to me you're just setting up for the gotcha. Like me as the referee, I'm supposed to be waiting there. Like, ooh, they're going to forget. They're going to forget to say they sharpen their weapons. And then, the next combat they get into is like, well, your sword would do this much damage, but you forgot to tell me you were sharpening it or honing it at camp, so now it only does half. And like, I'm not into that. Not into that. So that to me goes in that sort of standard operating procedures for adventures. You're cleaning you're maintaining your weapons and gear, something like that, right? Here's some. What am I? Oh yeah, this is kind of a new. I don't know if it's a new flavor, but new to me. Island Punch spinner for the working man. So, like I said, for some folks it might be great. I'm sure for the folks who really want to get down in the gritty, nitty-gritty details, they want that stuff. I don't. That's the last thing I want people to be wasting their brain power. Or I should say, it's the last thing I want to be wasting my brain power on. Because to me, it's just not that interesting. It's just like, it just becomes that game of repetition. I don't know. Someone, sell me on it. If you're someone that likes that and played in games that has that, sell me on it. But for me, I don't see it. Rusting armor. Okay. Armor completely rested at the end of an uninterrupted. I know I got to probably put this in here because I don't have. This is the other thing. I guess I got to, I have these terms that I've used. They're more referee terms, but here it becomes. Oh, I'll need to, actually, I need to put that in. Never mind. I'll have to put something in down here. That's a good ruse for that space. And armor can regain. Let's see. If breather. Let's see. In combat, armor can regain half resistance if one round can be spent out of melee and let's see. In combat, armor can regain half its resistance if the wearer both spends an entire round outside of melee and untouched by hostile actions. Well, we can see how that fits. We can see how that fits. Now, this obviously doesn't really for their light armor, it doesn't matter much at all. Because it's out, it's out. Okay, so resting armor. So yeah, I gotta put a breather. All right, need another. No style, and I need, is this heading? 2. Let's see, healing strain. A character, character can heal, can be healed, strain by spell or ministration. I always like that term. Does that? I think ministration works for healing, right? I've got the handy dandy dictionary up. I'm gonna look it up. And keep fingers crossed that I'm not going to get burned. Is it always just a plural? All right, bam. I didn't realize it was only plural. Through illustrations or spells or rest. All right, a character could be healed of strain. Now, I know I originally had some ideas about this, but now, where are my ideas when I'm not? Okay. Right. So, the character can be healed of strain through ministration, spells, or rest. Strain of the body and mind require all right, I was good. Because I want to say that if your body or mind get hurt, it takes you longer. That's like where you got to use downtime. I feel like do I need a term for that? Maybe I need a different term than strained. Do I need to go back to the thesaurus here? I don't know if I want wounded. Huffy. Churlish. No. Aggrieved. Okay, so wait a minute. This is huffy. No. Aggrieved. No. Hurt. Yes. Ugh, not that kind of hurt. Hurt, physically hurt. Disabled, kind of. Weakened is a good term. Okay, weakened is good. Weakened will work. All right, if there's more strain that can be neutralized, the body and mind become strained. The body and mind must, what did I say for this? Absorb is not the right word. There's more strain to be neutralized. The character is weakened. Perfecto. I think. All right, if there's more strain that can be neutralized, the characters weaken. Their body or mind becomes strained. First one, then the other, if enough strain breaks through. If the body is strained, no physical attacks. Right. All right, a character can be healed of strain through ministration, spell, or rest. Right, and then let's see if this will work. I don't know if it will or not. I'm going to try it. See, heading 2, heading 3. Taking a breather. Oh, did it do this again? No, resting undisturbed for a turn is a breather. The end of a successful breather, a character can heal. Character heals 1 strain. Oh, somebody who sent me something? Who has pinged me? I got pinged. Oh. So it's an interesting thing. I got pinged at the just right now by the Discord of the gaming store, which was making me nervous. But actually, what it is they've put some other games up, but not for tonight, for Wednesday. Interestingly enough, just in case you're wondering, the 3 games that were posted, one of them is 5th edition. One of them is something called 29.99. It says PBTA, powered by the Apocalypse 29.99, which I'm not familiar with. Another system, which I'm also not familiar with, is called Kane. The description says Kane, think the SCP Foundation or the Federal Bureau of Control, has deployed you to investigate several missing people and the manifestation of an incarnation of hate and misanthropy. So there you go. So it'll be very curious. Next time I will definitely try to I'll have more things. I'll have more of this done, or I should have at least one full playtest doc done, and then I'll be able to post something hopefully a little bit more alluring than what I did. But it's nice to see some different games being played. I know that they're doing Daggerheart, the old code. Daggerheart games they're starting to fire some of those up. I'm really interested. I don't know if anybody tonight will be playing any. If my game gets no takers, I may hang out and observe if somebody is having to play Daggerheart. I don't know. We shall see. I have no way of knowing how many people are taking part and what they're doing. All right, so healing strain. All right, that's fine. Character can be healed of strain through administration, spells, or rest. Okay, taking a breather, resting undisturbed for a ton. I meant turn. I don't need to cap a turn, but I do my little code thingy. Turn is a breather. At the end of a successful breather, it heals 1 strain. Only 1 breather can be taken within an hour. You can only take 1 breather an hour. You can't. Okay. Is there more I need to say about that? So we got healing strain. Got that. Taking a breather. Got that. Was there something else I wanted to say? Oh, yes. A character. Non-weakened characters, I should say. A non-weakened character. Croco says they always forget about the rest turn after 6 turns. It's actually after 5 turns, Croco. It's supposed to be once per hour. So you were supposed to do 5 turns of actual moving around and 1 turn of rest to make 6 turns in the hour. But yeah, it is easy to forget. And I think a lot of people don't really, it's one of those things. And in BX, they give you some penalties, but they're not that bad. So it's easy. And then plus, if you forget, obviously, then you don't even do that. I think in terms of the breather, I would rather apply positive reinforcement when I take a breather than the negative. So right now in BX, right there, it's a negative penalty. If you don't take a breather, you're starting to get exhaustion. And that's fine. It certainly sets a tone. But I think where I kind of tend to sit now is I would rather give reasons for folks to take breathers than to penalize them for not taking them, if that makes sense. And since there's a lot of stuff, since strain comes up, it's going to come up a fair amount because when you're casting spells, you're doing strain. Lots of things you're getting strain. You could even take on strain to push yourself to do something. Then there's more reasons for them to take a rest, I think. And it gives them it gives the players an incentive to kind of do stuff, but not do too much, right? You don't want to take on a bunch of strain if you can help it, because you can only take 1 breather an hour. And so you're going to be strained no matter what. However, if you can kind of say, well, I'll take the 1 strain to do something and then we can rest. So you could kind of try to plot it out. Of course, the thing with the best laid plans of mice and men and all that means that there's going to be times where you think you've got your pattern nailed out and then you don't, which is cool. That's kind of what you want. It's part of the mystery and the majesty of playing the games. Yeah, you thought you had this whole thing figured out. We're going to do one more thing and take a rest. And of course, then all hell breaks loose. All right, taking a breather, resting undisturbed for a turn is a breather. At the end of a successful breather, non-weakened character heals 1 strain. Only 1 breather can be taken within an hour. What's the... Ian says it seems like an arbitrary turn tax. Well, I think, Ian, I think they meant well. Like Ian, I mean, I think they meant well. I think what they're trying to say, see, because the thing is that it does do. Let me see if I can explain this. What I think that the rest turn does is it enforces and reinforces. It reinforces the concept of dungeon delving being extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Extremely, extremely rigorous activity. Because you see, people will say, "Well, you're only moving 120 feet. Like, what's the deal?" And then you explain to them, "Well, you know, in 10 minutes, you're only 120 feet in 10 minutes. Like, that's nonsensio." And then you start to explain, "Okay, you're trying to be quiet. You're trying to map. You're looking for traps. You're doing all that stuff." And so then the game's also saying that, hey, because that stuff we've just told you, the reason why you're moving so slow and carefully and all that, it also does this other thing. So I kind of like it in that it is reinforcing this theme of like, you're not just traipsing through the dungeon. Everything you're doing is slow because you're trying to not make noise, and all this stuff you're doing, you're moving slow. You're trying to be really precise. You got your head on a swivel, and all that stuff takes a toll on you, and we're accounting for that toll by saying you have to take a rest. But at the same time, like I said, I would rather you're using up resources, and so this gives you a way to recharge your resources than to say, well, if you don't rest, you're going to take penalties. Yeah, it's a totally a stressful thing. I would just rather say, hey, you take a breather, you get this. And hopefully you're using things that require strain, so you're going to want to take one. Kroga says, the slow movement assumes a lot of actions by the players that might not be happening. Well, that's true. I mean, but that's up to you, right? If you want to give them faster rates, I mean, you can. I've done that. I've had different travel rates saying if you're not interested in mapping and you're not really, you can move at, double, treble speed, quadruple speed, but you're not going to get certain information or advantages. You can totally figure that out. But yes, they make the assumption, which I don't think is a bad one, that you're kind of doing the things you're sort of supposed to be doing. At least somewhat. At least you are, or maybe I should say, is you're putting in time to potentially do things like mapping and using your 10-foot pole and doing all that stuff and being quiet. That's the assumption, right? That's kind of your default. That at least you've got your pen and parchment at the ready, whether you decide to use it or not. Sure, and you could obviously set different. You could set your own defaults. Say, hey, we're going to default to this, and if you want to do this, it's slower, and then you can do that. There's not one right way, but I could see where they're coming from, especially for BX, which is really trying to be a learning edition that is trying to kind of set you straight. All right, let's see, what time is it? All right, I still got a little more time. A character can be healed if strained through administration, spells, arrest, resting undisturbed for a turn. Is a breather. At the end of a successful breather, a non-weakened character heals 1 strain. Only 1 breather can be taken within an hour. And now I need a thing for, I guess I'll just have to go to the top of the page. I don't need to just, okay. Oh yeah, recuperating. This will be another heading 3. Oh, I don't want you at the bottom of the page. I know I can set a rule to keep with next, which I probably will do, but for right now, I'm just going to do that. Okay. A weakened character requires more significant rest to recover. Oh, you know what? I can also do, hold on a minute, actually. Oh, no, actually, hold on it. Actually, let me do this. This probably makes more sense. I think all these are based on each other, so I think if I do this, this will work. Paragraph. No, it's flow. There it is. Flow options. Keep. There we go. Okay. Recuperating a weakened character requires more significant rest to recover. They must spend 1 week let me see. Do I want to do that a week? Because I like time. I like time as a weapon. I like time as a cost. I like time all these things because it allows your world to move. But at the same time, I don't want to make it so that you're, especially at low levels. Oh, Dave says, hey, Dave says that time is a fantastic resource. It really is. It really is. Okay. A non-breathing character. Non-weakened character. So you're taking a bunch of strain. Yeah. Oh, I know what I want to do. Character heals 1 strain. 1. Oh, I gotta. This is where I start running into. I need words. I need terms. Character heals 1 strain. Okay, if there's more strain can be neutralized, you have 1, I guess, neutralized strain. One. It's been nice to neutralize it. Yep. Resting undisturbed for an hour as a breather. At the end of a successful breather, character heals 1 neutralized strain. So 1 strain they've accounted for with their dice pool, they can get rid of. A weakened character requires more significant rest for their mind and or body to recover. May spend nor. Regal character assume that must 1 week to heal completely. Spells Administrations may be able to speed this recovery. Okay, time and space, the good old classic, says Croco. Yeah, indeed. All right. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Okay. Character heals 1 neutralized strain, only 1 an hour. Body is strained. I'm gonna have to amend this somewhat, because basically if you have I gotta try to write this up. I'm probably just gonna leave it as is, because I don't think I'm gonna be handing this out to anybody tonight, but I'll just have it on hand. But basically the idea is, if when I'm talking about taking on strain in here, it's kind of assuming it's during an event. So you're trying to neutralize strain, and then that strain goes overboard and hits, and you get weakened. In that moment, you don't, all your dice pool has been neutralized, so you can't use any of it, and your body and stuff's gone. You can't do any. You're done. But there's a point here where you could have those the neutralized strain could be removed, but you're still weakened, and that's kind of the state that I need to talk about here. I mean, I suppose I could and just move this. I might have room to just move this whole thing over, I suppose, which I might just do. I didn't just delete because it's right there. All right, so let me add. Strained. Right. If the body is strained. Okay. If no dice remain and body is strained, mind is strained. If the character has maybe I'll put in the same paragraph. If a weakened character has dice, they may act, but their dice pool is halved. That's kind of what I'm getting at, but you're losing your dice. Sorry. Like I said, I'll have to go through and probably rewrite that, but I think it'll work for now. And then we've got here, characters can be healed if strained through administration, spell, or rest, taking a breather, resting undisturbed for a turn as a breather. At the end of a successful breather, a character heals 1 neutralized strain. Only 1 breather can be taken within an hour. Oh, yeah. Strain. Body or mind strain cannot be healed in this way. Just to be clear that you can't, you're not getting there from here. Maybe I should put something like me. The other nice thing about I do like having, I guess, tags is what the cool kids call it. These kind of tags or just these kind of things I like them because you can then use them. Like I could have a creature that responds to weakened characters. So by having this thing of saying, "Oh, you're weakened," I don't like having a bunch of them. Like fourth edition, it was really cool when it first, at least when I first experienced it, and you had these different statuses like tags, but it just went overboard with them. You're marked, you're blarked, you're charked, you've got this, you got that, you get the other. And like you'd end up with, we had these poker chips, and you end up having a stack of poker chips under your, and it just became really hard or just not as easy as maybe it should be to track. Just a little bit of more of a pain than maybe absolutely necessary to track. Whereas I like something that kind of can give you some of that, but maybe it's a bit simple. And I'm not saying that this is what that is because I could easily look. I'm not going to say that I myself could not go overboard with these. But in terms of this state, I like being able to say, hey, you're weakened, so these things might happen, or you're something else has happened, so this might happen. I like that element. All right, so we've got healing, strain, taking a breather, recuperating, resistance armor. Oh yeah, I had shields. Do I have room? Oh no. I think I do. Okay. Shields resist without degradation, but must be actively engaged to do so. Also have a resistance rating. They resist without degradation, but must be actively engaged to do so. Yep. All right. So now I'm going to need to move to the next page. That's fine because I don't have too much going on over here. What do I need to talk about? Let's see. Yeah, resting armor. Oh yeah, because I want to, what the heck happened? Oh my gosh. Crash. Goodbye, publisher. All right, let's reload. Reloading. I don't think I lost too much. Dave says theirs does it too, but still more stable than Adobe. Haven't had too much troubles with Adobe though. I haven't been in InDesign in quite a long time, so it may have gotten worse. InDesign, I had good luck with InDesign maybe, but I mean, yeah, stuff crashes, especially on Windows. I feel like so. I mean, I don't know, stuff crashes on OS X and stuff too. It's just, you know, sacrificing. I need to be zoomed out quite so far. Armor and shields. Ugh. I spell that as SHEI, right? Yeah, no, IE, right? It's IE. I knew it didn't look right. Okay. Let's see. All right, sacrificing armor and shields. That's another level 3, right? Yep. All right. Okay. Armor. And armor or shield can be sacrificed to double its resistance against a single source of damage. This sacrifice destroys once sacrificed, the armor or shield is destroyed. So if you're in a pickle, you can go ahead and sacrifice. But there's a price. Which to me is this is that thing of it's similar to the what I was saying about repairing your armor. Like, yeah, I don't want to get into repairing your armor business, but I'm also fine with having someone that says, yeah, you know what, you might be in this kind of game. Maybe you are going to be trying to pick up armor more often, not because of any you're selling it for scrap, but just because you may need to, because you may have leather armor, and because leather armor only absorbs 1 to begin with, then or whatever armor, then you use it, sacrifice it to get 2, and you do that, but now you need leather again. So now you're gonna look up for more armor, which means that those kind of armor sources, at least for a while, that become kind of annoying. They're not annoying, but they just become. And this guy's wearing a suit of leather. It's like, yeah, nobody needs leather armor at this point. Well, you might, because you might have sacrificed your armor in the last combat. Let's see. I know there's a note about magic. Oh yeah, like another. Okay. Magic armor and shields. Oh yeah. Oops. Right. Gain extra resistance. For each bonus magical resistance generates the beginning of the okay. You get some magic armor. It's strong. You gain extra resistance, and this resistance springs back. And I'd like to try another word for this resistance that actually comes back, but I don't have one yet. So I'm just I don't think I need to. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay. Is there anything? Oh yeah, so let me just run through. I'll run through this because I think I'm not done, but I think I'm done with what I can manage to get out before I'm going to have to get out. But I will run through, for those of you stuck with it so far, just a quick run and look at how this looks in its current form. So I'm calling it Troop. I'm calling it the player playtest document version 1 because this is geared towards players, more or less. Since I'm running it, and this will be something that at some point, maybe later in the week, I'll try to get something printed so I can have it with me when I take to a couple places. But so because it's with players, I do the brief. I try to do a really brief summary. I mean, this is a very simple system. You're rolling d6s. You want 6s. If you have, well, I'll get into the attributes, things like that add dice to your pool. So if you have +1 strength and you're first level and you're doing something that's strength related, you would roll 2 dice, you get an extra die. Your expertise, things that you're skilled at, I call craft, which is your skills, crafts. If you're good at them, you get a modifier that you add to every die in your pool. So if you are trained in sword play using swords, then if you're second level, you're rolling 2 dice. Each one of those 2 dice get a +1. So then your target essentially becomes 5 or 6. But I'm always saying 6, and you're adding your modifiers. But right, you're increasing your target range as your skills progress. And I have a few levels from basically if you've never seen a sword before, I call it unfamiliar. You have no idea what that is, then your dice pool gets halved. So like you generally want to be avoiding doing stuff that you're completely unfamiliar with. If you're familiar, it's just a regular roll. If I think it's trained, it's +1. If you're an expert, +2, and then master is the top level, it's +3. So that's basically, I just try to kind of give a really brief run through there. So here again, the attributes, I am changing things up with the attributes, basically because I want to kind of reset a little bit. So I think it's the classic 6, but I'm trying to, I know people, I saw someone post this on Reddit and just annoying. Said someone like, why are you changing the attribute names? It's, sometimes it's good to reset the expectations. And I don't like some of the things that the classic names bring with them, the baggage, I don't want. So here are mine. And sometimes I just want to do it, right? Arms, this is your strength and physical power. Legs is your speed. So I don't have this concept of dexterity being both your kind of nimbleness, finger nimbleness, and speed. It's just speed. Everything else is skill based. So your skills are going to determine how well a locksmith you are, not how fast you are. I just never liked that word, that your dex is both your speed of moving and somehow could be your motor skills. Like I separate that stuff is skill. You could be a locksmith and you could be slow as molasses and you could still be the best locksmith in the world. They're not related at all to me. That's just a choice I'm making in my system. Heart is your constitution and toughness. I'm calling it heart. Learning, this is for education, knowledge. I'm not using intelligence because this isn't about how smart you are. You can determine as a player if you want to play your character as being smart or dumb, or if they just didn't pay attention in class or whatever it is. But you're learning. If you have to make a roll based on kind of knowledge, learning is going to come up. But as we're going to see in a minute, these do not add a bunch. That's the other thing is the amount of modifiers that these attributes actually do to you is not very much at all. It's not insignificant, particularly at low levels, but once you start getting more levels, it's not going to amount to much, which is my intention. That's what I like. Will, this would be your wisdom, but I don't want wisdom because, again, that wisdom is something you can play how wise or unwise your character is, but this is your will, your determination, this is if someone's trying to charm you or do something like that, that's your will. Other things, that's will. And then aura, that's like your charisma. I just try to widen it a little bit. I like aura because I don't know, I like the idea of aura reading and things like that. So you're gonna get some aura. When it's your same thing as your charisma is your presence. Charisma is actually the least troublesome one almost of these, where I just felt like I could have probably used charisma, but so I changed all the other ones. I'm like, I'm gonna change them all. So we're going to determine your attributes. You're going to roll for your attribute. And here's the massive range. You're either going to roll on a 1. You have a penalty of -1, which hurts Because if you're first level and you try to do something that's strength and you have a -1 penalty, then that -1, I guess I should put, it's not really bonus penalty. Let me just spell this out, to dice pool, because it's not a +1 modifier to your dice. Oops. Can I just move this to recenter you? There we go. So you can see the whopping range here. It's either -1 or +1. And I thought about doing different ones, doing 2 and 2, but I think 1 and 1 is fine. So it's like a level's worth of bonus. So if you're a first level and you have a +1 die, it's like you're level 2 for that thing. But the vast majority are going to get zeros, which is fine. That's kind of how I want it. But now, this is something I posted to patrons, but I'll just go through it really quickly. I decided that if you roll through your attribute bonuses and penalties, I should call it bonus, and your attributes, that's called dice bonus. If the sum of your character's attribute dice, bonuses, and penalties is 0 or less, they've earned a gift. So if you roll poorly, you get a gift. Now, these gifts are really similar. Some of them are pretty good, and I might need to amend them, but they're more niche. So strength, +1 strength, right? Just +1 strength. That works for anything kind of strong. Strength, +1 strength, right? Great. But you might get these, which are more niche, but could also be really interesting. So it's a D66 table. Stuff like getting 1 versus saving throws. Oh, I haven't written up saving throws. I'll have to save that for later. So you might get +1 versus different types of saving throws: death, paralysis, spell. And these are going to be out of order. I was just writing them down as I came up with them, thinking about them. So some of these I'll have to reorder these around at some point. So save versus different effects. You might get bonus dice for different activities. So sneaking, hiding, climbing, your thief stuff. So, but just one of them. It's not all of them, just one of them. Quick-fingered, decisive, initiative, better at listening, tracking, research. I have the augury, which I have to write up, but that's basically if you're doing things like reading the tea leaves, things like that, I want to have something like that. And you get something like that. Camping, for finding camping or in the wilderness. Hunting, foraging, trap smithing, working with traps. Basically these are all +1 dice to those. So if you're a healer, if you got healing and you're doing ministrations, you get an extra die. So that's pretty handy. Not going to come up all the time like your attributes might, but it's pretty darn handy. You might get a +1 die to turning on day, which I actually now called something else. What did I call it? Forbidding. So I'll change that to forbidding, because that's what I call it now. And then for fun, I'm going to be categorizing spells according to, I'm going to set their elements that they're attached to. And for the spells that I have written up, just the first level spells, I did that. So you might have a little bit better to use one of those. Fire, water, earth. Did I forget? I did air. Oh, you know what? I had added one in thinking I missed one. I think I forgot air. I might have to go through and take one of those and put air back in, but I'll do that later. Or maybe I could just say pick one element, pick a random element. Maybe I can get some more stuff in there. You could read magic if you're wizard-eyed. If you're bone-tongued, you can speak with dead. If you're a beast whisperer, you get +1 to any kind of, I guess I should say, animal-related tasks and tests. So it's basically the idea is, hey, you're not that great, but you're one, those penalties are not that severe. And 2, if you really end up in a spot where you're at a net 0 or minus, I'm giving you something back, and I just had some extra stuff. So that's that part of it. Then I have talking about crafts and lores, right? Craft is a skill essentially, and lore is knowledge. And I have the levels here: unfamiliar, familiar, trained or studied, expert, and master. And then we talk about classes. I'm doing BX for the moment, so I'm just going with classics ones. But I've kind of rejiggered them a little bit. So burglar, thief or rogue, crafty and craft. Or oh yeah, I meant to get clever and wily, not crafty, because I'm using. So I've got burglar, magician, warrior, and paladin. Paladin, it's the cleric essentially, but since clerics are kind of part warriors anyway, I thought paladin's actually a better term for what they actually are. So you got burglar, magician, warrior, paladin, and then a class. It's this something at least I appreciate, and we'll see how it's working when I start getting it tested out. But your classes, it's just a couple of crafts and lores. There's going to be a progression, but which I will have. But for right now, you're starting at level 1. You're just playing level 1. You don't even need a progression. All you need is this blurb, which is you get a couple of crafts and you get lores. Crafts are the actual things you're doing. If you're trained, remember, gets +1 all your dice. If you're familiar, you're neither penalized nor, so you can just roll as normal. And anything outside of these would be unfamiliar territory. So you're trained in sneaking, hiding, climbing, lockpicking, and trapsmithing. You're familiar with clubs, knives, and daggers, slings, staff, and armor. Bows are not in there. I took out the bow, but you can get it back in a couple ways, or at least maybe 1 or 2 ways. I don't know. We'll see. And trained in appraisal. I probably will come up with more lores. I feel like I could also. This is something that could be really easy to get other classes, and I kind of want to do my ultimate goals. Maybe have something kind of maybe potentially gloggy with this, where your progression for a lot of these is really just 4 levels, and then you move on to something else and move on to something else, kind of thing. Either higher versions of or just into different ones. And I really want to make those diegetic in that you're in the fiction, you're doing stuff in the fiction that's leading to kind of classes showing up. So that's the burglar. Then we got the magician crafts, right? Spellcraft, and same format, trained in spellcraft and scrollcraft and potion making. They're familiar with knives and daggers and the staff. Obviously, there's no armor there. And their lores, they're trained in arcana and research, so general research and also knowledge about magic. And then they're familiar with esoterica. So if they're rolling against some kind of weird, I figure magicians would be, if anyone's going to know some weird detail about something or remember, whatever it would be, magician. Warrior, you're fighting man, fighter. They're trained in axe, bow, dagger, mace, sword, armor, and shield. That's, their skills. They're trained in heraldry and they're familiar with customs. I figured heraldry was, these are all things that obviously, as I'm going to be creating game materials for this, there will be, and as I'm thinking about these when I'm making stuff for it, this will become important. But I thought heraldry, because if you're following, herald, there are practical reasons why you want to know whose banner you should be going towards and that kind of thing, right? To see a banner across a field of battle and know that that's your lord versus not. And I thought that was important. And then customs, because I think there's a lot of customs around a lot of these military societies, customs wise. So then you have the paladin, which it's kind of towing the line between the fighter and between the warrior and the magician. So these are kind of your ceremony, which I haven't totally figured out. I have some ideas, but I don't have it totally, what's the word for it? I don't have it totally fleshed out yet. Forbidding is basically turning. Ritual is what I'm referring to when paladins class spells is through rituals. And armor, with armor, the more and I probably should make a note of this. I know it, the better you have to be trained in armor to wear medium. You have to be expert in armor to wear heavy. So if you're only familiar in armor, like the burglar, you can only wear light armor. If you're as warriors, and this is a little bit of a step down for warriors at the start of the game. But warriors being trained in armor, they can wear medium to start, and so can paladins, and then heavy will unlock later. Familiar with mace, staff, shield, and sword. In this case, paladins can use swords. And their lores are theology, they're trained in, and then they're also familiar with heraldry and customs, because that's what they're getting from the sort of the fighter warrior side. And then, those are the core classes. I then have origins, which is basically backgrounds. You discover your origin by rolling on it. I just have 6 right now. This is one that you could get really expansive if you want to. I'm keeping it pretty darn, at least right now, generic, right? So acolyte, apprentice, lordling, peasant, understudy, or urchin. And this essentially this is another way for you to get some more things. So for each of these origins, you get to basically pick one craft that you're also familiar with on top of what you got through your class, and one lore that you're familiar with on top of your what you have in your class. And if you happen to pick one that your class already has, like if you rolled acolyte and say magician, and you have esoterica already, instead of it doesn't increase you one, but you get an extra die. So essentially, it gives you a little bit of a bonus. So for the acolyte, you choose one of these to be familiar with: forbidding, ritual, or spellcraft, and then you pick theology or esoterica. So the thing is, you can be an acolyte that becomes a warrior that has some turn undead going on. In fact, anybody can turn. It's just that if you're turning with half your pool, you're just not going to be very good at it, whereas other guys are good. That's kind of the thing, is like everybody can kind of do everything, and I'll have to get into it more detail when I'm able to do more writing up, but certain spells require skill, and they get locked down that way. And then other things going. So that'll be more, I think I've talked about it before, but I'll go through it, but that's for more at a later date. So, okay, you choose some of that stuff, and then you go, you can choose one of those. The apprentice, you can be familiar with appraisal, repair, or a hammer as kind of a weapon if you want. Repair is not for kind of repairing armor, but this is something I think you could, lots of times in dungeons, you run into things like, oh, it's broken. And it's like, well, hey, I'm good at repair. Okay, great. That's kind of what that is. It's not for some kind of like, I got to repair my armor every night. That's not what this is for. This is for using it on something worthwhile for adventuring, not maintenance. And then lores, you get to choose one of carpentry, jewelry, masonry, metallurgy, or pottery. The next one, let's see, a lordling. Basically, if you were a minor lord's kid before whatever happened, you can choose. This is a way you can get some of these weapons if you didn't get them as part of your class. You might get a mace, sword, armor, or shield. And your lords, you might end up with it's customs. You pick one of. Oh, and I forgot to choose one of on this one, customs or heraldry. And if I could think of more, I would. Did I forget to put spaces for all those choose one ofs? I did, didn't I? All right, peasants. They don't get a choice. They just get herbology, but they do get to choose one of forging, trapping. You can get a bow, sling, a spear, or a snare for a weapon if you want. I should probably give fighters, warriors should get spear, I think. Or I should say pole arm, I guess. They're from herbology, and then understudy, which is kind of like you were a apprentice entertainer. This is where you can get dancing, oratory, singing, tumbling, or an instrument, and you can be familiar with folklore, history, or music. And then finally, the urchin. You get to choose one of clubs, daggers. This is the only place you can get backstabbing, because I don't give the burglars don't get backstabbing, hiding, or pickpocketing actually. Or sneaking, and then you gain appraisal. There's probably some other one I could put there, but I just have that one for right now. Let me fix these spaces issues. Well, I got space. So do you. That's just when I was copy pasting it across. I lost the spaces. Okay. And then we just went through capability and strain, so I'm not going to go through that again. And then, okay, we did that. And then I have rituals. Basically, I'm using magnitudes so I'm talking about, divine, I'm calling them miracles. I'm not the first person I've seen that some other games calling kind of divine spells miracles, which I like. So you're going with miracles, and miracles, they're ordered by their magnitude. So basically, first level spell is a first magnitude miracle. A ritual takes a turn. So the one thing with these is the clerics, these divine spells don't cause strain like the magician ones do, but they're rituals. They take time. It takes one turn. I might change this right now. It's one turn per level of magnitude. That seems like it's a lot. I might change that up to something else. But for right now, since I only have one, it's going to be one turn. But you have to do it. They other than healing, they're all ones that also last for multiple turns. So you're basically investing to do it for the time forward. So healing hurts is, it's your cure wounds. I also tried to make them so that when you're higher levels, I'm not going to have multiple heal hurts. I'm going to have one heal hurts, and then their efficacy or power level increases with the amount of successes that you do. So if you're rolling 8 dice on a first level, first magnitude ritual, and you get 6 successes, you just get to have a better healing. That's how I'm doing it. So heal hurts is such as like cure wounds, lend courage. It's like it's dispel fear essentially, but anyway, it provides resistance to fear effects for each creature near the ritualist. For each success, lasts 6 turns. Protection from evil. I forgot the space again. Repels evil things from one creature, increases their resistance to any hostilities for each success, lasts 6 turns, and then sense evil. The ritualist senses the general presence of evil intentions or enchantments, also lasts 6 turns. So you're investing a turn, but then you get it for an hour. So it takes you 10 minutes to cast, and then you get it for an hour. And then here for spells, each spell is associated with circles. So miracles have magnitudes, spells have circles. I'm also associating each spell with an element, which means that you might end up with it, depending on if you rolled one of those gifts. Maybe you'll get extra dice if you stick to certain spells. It also means that creatures might have more or less resistance to spells to different elements, which I think is kind of a fun idea, because I probably will also categorize creatures, or at least some creatures that don't, besides elementals and stuff that have obviously are already tied to elements, but other creatures, maybe every creature will have some kind of elemental, I guess, alignment, so to speak, or direction. I don't know, leaning. I don't know. Spells take a round to cast. So this is a little bit different than your basic, like BX. So you don't cast. You have to, and I don't have it all written here, right? But you would say you're casting the spell and actually fire off at the end of the round. We'll see how I'm playing it if that changes it, but that's the idea right now. And it costs a strain. You can use things to defer the strain. Maybe I'll just say resisted, because I'm using the term resisted. I shouldn't do another word. 4-axis elemental alignment sounds fun. Yeah, I think so. Strain can be resisted to the use of sympathetic components, reagents, and tools. So basically, one of the things I'm saying here is that you should be thinking as a magician about the spell you're trying to cast and how you can get a bunch of dice either to get it to work, but also how you can potentially, because I'm not using, so there's no spell points, right? No spell points, no slots. Okay, so how am I regulating someone just going bonkers with spells? And that is through strain. I don't have right now like a way to up the strain. So basically, the idea of sympathetic components is a way for a magician to cast higher level stuff, because you always get one strain. Actually, I probably you can't get your strain down to 0. You're always going to take one strain. But if you're casting a higher level spell and you didn't want to take all that strain, you could try to use things much like armor and shields. You could try. There are similar things for spells, but I don't have that all written down yet, and it's not going to make it into my thing today. So, and then finally, and then we have the first circle. So I'm not going to go through all these, but basically this is my version of Charm, which I'm calling Bewitch. What is this? It is a fire spell. Places a single human or human-like creature under the caster's magical influence and control. The creature may resist by testing their will against the caster. So no saving throws. You're just rolling the same dice. And this is where your attributes are leveraged. So if you have +1 die for will, that's better for your will. Right? I am going to have, which I didn't put in there right now, but I do. The classes will have some bonuses to certain saving throws. I just actually kind of forgot about it as I was going through it, but that'll get in there. Let's see. Decipher. Yeah, it's just read languages. Drowse is sleep, which is not as powerful at low levels as regular sleep, but it scales in a way that regular suit doesn't. Hinder is basically your hold portal, and Sense Arcane is, detect magic. And then I talk about sympathy here. I have more stuff to write, but just didn't get around to it. And I think that's it, right? That is it. So I got a jet. Thanks everybody for hanging out and help me go through this. This will go to patrons, at least first to patrons, and then we'll see elsewhere, but probably not in this form. I probably want to at least finish getting all the things that I'm going through saying, oh yeah, I want to finish before I start putting it out in the world at all. But yeah, that's it. All right, folks, I got to run. So have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.